All right, so this is chapter 7. I'm going to do a lot of the exercises so you can kind of see how everything goes down with activity-based costing. For this one, our cutting hours for each of these boots are here, assembly hours, inspection hours, and rework hours. So I'm going to skip 29. We're going to go to 30. So we want to calculate the activity rates that would be assigned to each product. So what I want to do is, I'm going to bring up Excel here. What I want to do is I will do cutting, and we have assembly, inspection, and reworking. Okay, so to find out the activity rates, I'm going to take the cost divided by the number that I'm doing. For example, cutting would be the number of cutting hours, assembly would be the number of assembly hours, inspection, the number of inspection hours, and then reworking the number of reworking hours. So let's take a look at cutting. So our cutting is 150,000 is the cost of cutting. And then we have, I'm going to take the total. I'm not going to take it for each individual boot. I'm going to take the total. So I'm going to take the cost of 150,000 and I'm going to divide it by the total number of boots we're making between the two, which is 6,000. So my activity rate is $25 for cutting. So what does that mean? That means that I am essentially paying, or it's costing me $25 per cutting hour for these boots. So I'm going to do the same for assembly. The cost for assembly is $187,500. And then between the two boots, it's a total of $37.50. So my assembly is 50 per hour. Inspecting cost is 45,000. And the total between the two boots number of hours is 2250. And then finally reworking cost 22,500 divided by 300 total reworking hours, so $75. So that is going to be, those are going to be all my hours based on activities, our cost drivers. So then I can figure out how much each process is going to cost. Okay, so let's look at exercise 731. This is calculating the actual cost for each one of these. So we have a bank that has two different kinds of credit cards, Classic and Gold. And these are the activity rates that we calculate. And we just calculated those rates for the boots, so we know how to do that now. Now there are 5,000 Classic card holders and 20,000 Gold card holders. So if I want to figure out how much it's going to cost for each one, I'm going to go ahead and set it up like this. So I have my Classic, and I have my Gold. And then I want to calculate all the different costs that are associated with these cards. So I have processing, I have statements to prepare, I have answering questions, and I have ATMs. So, and I'm leaving, I should probably leave more than, well, that's okay. So I'm leaving two spaces here because I'm going to have a cost for the Classic and I'm going to have a cost for the Gold. Okay, so for the Classic, for example, we know if we look back here that our activity rate is 15 cents, Classic is 8,000, Gold is 4,800. So I'm going to take 8,000 times 15 cents, and that's my Classic cost. And then I'm going to take the same 15 cents and I'm going to multiply it by the 4,800 for the Gold transactions. So just take 15 cents by each one of these. So you can kind of see how this whole thing is going to go down now. Statements is going to be my cost per statement. which is 90 cents times 8,000 and 4,800. And 90,000 times 4,800 equals. Answering questions is going to be our cost per unit of $3 times, again, 16,000 for the classic and 24,000 for the gold. ATMs is going to be $1.20 per transaction times 32,000 transactions total for classic and times 9,600 for the gold. So then let's calculate our totals here. And then to find the cost per card, I'm just going to take that total and divide it by how many cards we have. So we have a total cost of $94,800, and then we have 5,000 classic cards. And this cost divided by 20,000 gold cards. So as you can see, the gold card is much cheaper than the classic, but now we have a cost per card. So the next one we're doing is Cornerstone 733. We're going to do customer costing. So typically customers, the larger customers that order less frequently are a lot less cheaper than the smaller retailers that order much more frequently. But let's go ahead and calculate the cost of each one. Now, there are two cost drivers that we're going to take a look at. It's going to be order filling costs and sales force costs. And these are the total costs between the two, and that's what we want to be working with. And then we're going to take those costs and divide it by, for example, if you have the total cost of the orders filled, you want to figure out what the total number of orders are, which is 12,012. Same with Salesforce. You want to take the total cost of the Salesforce, divide it by the total number of sales calls, which is 294 plus 6. So that's the first step. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is 33. So we are going to take the order fill rate, and I'm going to add the two costs together, 484,800 plus 323,200. And I'm going to divide that by the total number of orders, which is 12,012. So the cost per order is $667 per order here. And then the next one is the selling call rate. Do the same thing. I'm going to add the two costs together, 240,000 and 160,000. And divide it by the total number of sales calls, which was 300. So it costs us $1,333 per sales call. So once we have those rates, then we can figure out the actual cost of each of the different types of retailers. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have large. Oops, I did not mean to do that. We have large and we have small. Okay, so then we're going to take the different costs. So for ordering, for example, we're going to take the 667, I'm just rounding, times the number of orders for the large, which is 12. And then we're going to do the same thing, 667 times the total number of ordering for small, which is 1,200. So that's quite obviously a different cost. And then we have sales calls. So for large, I'm going to take the 1,333, multiply it by the total number of sales calls, which is 6. Do the same thing over here, times 294. Okay, so total cost for the large is 16,002, and total cost for the small is, wow, 1,192,302. Now, that's a huge difference, obviously. Just keep in mind that you have a lot more small customers than you do large. Now, is it still beneficial to have the large rather than the small? Absolutely it is. So that's just one thing to look at here, $200. Okay, so that's 33. All right, so this is the next one. This is 34. And this is talking about supplier costing. So in this case, we are ordering things from two different companies, Alpha and La Paz, and we are ordering two different items from each of these companies, the X and the Y. Now, La Paz charges more than Alpha does, but we want to see if that's actually worth it. So there are a couple of things that cost us more than just the price of X and Y, and that is when these components, X and Y, I guess, fail. And so what happens is we have to test these components to see if they will fail, and then if they do, we have to reorder. So these are the two costs involved with that. So before we even get started, if you look at La Paz, you know that they charge more, but they have far fewer failed tests and no reorders. So that might tell us that maybe it is worth it to pay a little bit more, but the question is, how are we going to figure out how to do that? Well, the first step is going to be to figure out the cost of each test, failed test, and the cost of each reorder. So to do that, 34. So to do that, again, we're going to add the total cost of the failed test first, which is 1,500,000. And we're going to divide that by the total number of failed tests, which is 1,500 plus 975 plus 13 plus 12. Okay. So it costs us $600 per failed test. For the reorder, I'll do failed test. For the reorder, again, I'm going to add the total cost of the reorders, which is $375,000. And I'm going to divide that by the total number of reorders. So we only have, I think we have 75 for X and we have 50 for Y. So the reorder cost is $3,000. So now what I can do is I can figure out the true cost of each item per supplier. So let's do Alpha and let's do La Paz. It's not just the cost of the item, but it's the cost of these failed tests and these reorders here. So let's go ahead and first figure out the purchase cost. So I guess maybe what I should do. Do this. So we have X and Y for Alpha, and we have X and Y for La Paz. So let's talk about the purchase cost first. So we have purchase. So for X, for Alpha, it's $10 each, and we purchase 150,000. Let me make those dollars so we can kind of see all these commas here. Okay, and then for Y, we bought them for $26 each, and we bought 75,000. Okay, and then for La Paz, it was $12 each, and we bought 18,750. And for Y, it was $28 each, and we bought 18,750 as well. Okay. All right. So that's our purchase cost, which is just the first part of that. And then now we're going to need to calculate the other costs associated with it. Let's do testing first. So for X under Alpha, it's $600 a test, and we had 1,500 tests. It's kind of a lot. Again, $600 a test, and we had 975. La Paz, $600 a test. We only had 13. $600 a test. We only had 12. So the costs there are significantly lower. And then